Hello all. This is a video and it's going to serve as an introduction and presentation about the hidden history of Tartaria. And first, we are going to delve into old world Tartarian maps, which predominantly show Tartaria. Old world Tartaria was a worldwide culture, society, civilization, however you want to call it, however you look at it, and it was all across the planet. China, Europe, Russia, that we know of Russia, absolutely all over the place. So I'll just show you as many maps as I can. As you can see, I'm not sure where some of these maps where they are, what part of the world they are, because what you've got to try and get your head around is the fact that there was some kind of flood. Now, whether it be water or whether it be mud or both, we don't actually know, but all the evidence suggests that it was a worldwide disaster, and it helped wipe out the old civilization of Tartaria, which I'll show you as we go along. And all these maps, that one's somebody's home. See the plant on the side. All these maps indicate that it was all Tartary. That one's not a very good one, but let's go. Let's see what we got. There we go. There was even oceans named after Tartaria. That could be there, could be what we now know as Dead Sea. I'm really sure that looks to be China there, which was part of Tartaria. Tartaricus Sea, Oceanus, I've heard that name before. And it seems like the word mare was an old word for sea or ocean, or bay, maybe. Something to do with the sea or the ocean anyway, as you'll see in the maps. So let's carry on. So what it is showing here, it's a bit blurry, it's not very good. All the pink was Tartaria. So you can see it was really big society. And I think the maps show that the further back you go, the bigger it was. And the further forward you got forward in time, the smaller it shrank. So again, these maps don't show our realm as they are now. So there was obviously some kind of shift, some kind of cataclysm that made the oceans or seas bigger. So, because to me, this looks like Australia, maybe Papua New Guinea, unless Australia's, that could be Australia. And then this was all Papua New Guinea around here. But a lot of this is not there now. This landmass is not there now. So could that have been? Don't know, again, it's not really clear enough to tell. But anyway, we'll go forward. There's more to show. Again, this is showing Tartaria in Asia. There's Russia, Germany, and then going into Europe. And interestingly, that body of water there is called Orientalis. So again, everything's got different names. That looks like to be North Africa that we know of now, and notice how it's all green. So was it all lush vegetation, like the desert is now? And you can see that that's Egypt, but the E looks more like an A. So they've changed the names. They really have altered it all. Tartary in the red. Again, it was huge. It was huge. This society, this culture, this civilization was huge, and it's all over the old maps. And there's another one showing Tartary. I mean that one's out of a book, out of an old book, as you can see there. Is it going to let me see some more? No. Let's see if we can get some more up. I'll have to minimise that. Into another file. There we go. So, yeah. File. Again, Tartary. That's the one we've already seen. So we've already seen these. Sorry, folks. Let's go back. Let's see if we can find any more maps. There we go. Showing us Tartary. It must be the same. So anyway, you get the idea. All the old maps show Tartary. Asia, yeah, we've seen those. Sorry, folks. So anyway, the next part of the evidence is old buildings. So let's have a look at some of these old buildings all around us, which we're told are all built by cultures that we've taught about at school. And we're led to believe that these buildings belong to a certain culture or society. But I beg to differ. It's weird. I don't know where this is. But we've got all these, the point is, we've got all these old buildings all across the world. And that's a Great Wall of China. And so it's all made of brick. And the story that they tell us doesn't fit the practicalities of it. And what I mean by that is, if we're told that there was no technology back then, as we know it now. There was no power tools, there was no electricity. People were people riding around on horses and doing everything by candlelight. All the masonry and stonework was all done by chisels, all done by hand. Um, all the carpentry was really basic. They didn't have any kind of knowledge about any of this stuff. But all the old architecture across this world totally contradicts what they tell us. And it's all around us. You can go to any city. Pyramids fit into this story as well when it comes to the pyramids. The cathedrals. How many, I'm from England, how many people have stared at a cathedral and said to themselves, how the bloody hell did they make that? How the hell did they make that? Because we cannot build these structures now. We couldn't even copy a small part of this structure now. Something like this, we can copy it now. Well, we could probably copy it, but we couldn't build it the way they built it. We just couldn't do it. Not even now. Imagine the crane you would need to lift that up there. Yet we're told they didn't have no petrol, no diesel engines, no electricity, no power tools, no lasers to keep everything beautifully straight. To me, half of this masonry work looks like it's that perfect. It looks almost like it's been through a 3D printer. Bridges. This is an aqueduct. I'd say this is either takes a train, a steam train, a railway system, or it's an aqueduct. Look how perfect it is. How the hell did we build that? Even if it was built in Victorian times, what they say is Victorian times. We were still only using horse and carts. We didn't have electricity. We're told if it was very early electricity, and the infrastructure just wouldn't have been there to build this kind of stuff. You would have needed power tools. That just doesn't make any sense what they tell us. And even the time period, because when you look at Victorian England, the whole of the country, all of it, the whole of the kingdom of the United Kingdom is all full of Victorian buildings. That's a lot of Victorian buildings, and they're supposed to have built it all within the space of the Victorian era, when Victoria ruled, and I think she ruled for about 70. So they say she ruled for about 70 years. So in 70 years, they completely built out all of the kingdom of the Scotland, England, Wales, all of the kingdom in all of this type of architecture. Now we haven't been able to build out all of it, all our architecture, not the way they did, not as beautiful as they did. But they apparently did it all with horse and cart, candles, no electricity, inferior infrastructure. They did all this kind of stuff. There you go, there's London Bridge. Not sure when London Bridge was built, because I don't know what the story is on that. But again, look at the ironwork. Beautiful. It's like two castles sitting in the water. How would they have built that up from the Thames River? The Thames River, really tidal, really strong, powerful river, huge. How would you get in there and stop the current of the water? Because you would have to build filtering. Get in the water for a start. Maybe dam it further down. How the hell would you dam it? And then you would have to dam the water and then lay the foundations for this in all the mud and all the shit when all the water's gone, and then build up from that. It would be nigh on impossible. And then get to this point, Jesus, it would take forever. So, and they tell us that was built, possibly the Victorian times. But I'd have to check the narrative on that. Yeah, again, this kind of stuff here. They tell us that it's Roman or Greek, um, but again, this Roman or Greek architecture looks exactly the same. Most of it looks exactly the same as the Victorian architecture, but they tell us it's thousands of years old. But to me, and anybody else that looks at all this stuff, you soon realise it's all from the same period. And then you find weird structures like this. This looks like it's Japan or part of China or somewhere like that. And I mean, look at that. So these primitive peoples could build stuff like that on a rock. I mean, look, there's an archway there. No, it's just unbelievable. So, and this is Angkor Wat, possibly. Again, this is architecture that's unexplainable. Whether this was part of Tartaria, I would say it was probably an earlier side of it. But the fact still remains, nobody knows how they built any of this, and they tell us that they were primitive people, and we just couldn't do anything like this. Also, these towers, the Eiffel Tower, in a lot of the old pictures, there's towers like this actually everywhere. There was towers like this all over the world. But again, how could they have built this kind of structure? And again, we think that the evidence suggests that they would have had free energy. And a lot of people have come to the conclusion, because of the evidence that suggests it, that these towers were energy gathering devices, and the higher they went up into the atmosphere, the more energy they could collect from the air, from the ether. Because if you look into Nikola Tesla, that side of things, you'll soon discover that all the technology that he was using, creating, was drawing energy from the ether, from the air. And with a lot of us have come to the conclusion that that's exactly what these were. These towers for free energy, to draw energy from the air and travel, put it into the earth, and light up all the lighting in the streets and people's homes. Again, Angkor Wat, and these buildings are the same, actually drawing free energy from the ether using crystalline stone, and that's why we think that's why they were this shape. Big Ben. I don't know what the story is on that. Beautiful building. I think the story on that, I would have to check, that it was Elizabethan, so it was built in the 1500s apparently. But it's absolutely stunning. I mean, you've only got to look at that, and you just know that couldn't have been built in the 1500s, with the story that they tell us, that there was no technology. I mean, it's just an unbelievable building, really. That one, I don't know where that is, but that's an old photo. I'd say that was from the turn of the century, 1800s. It looks like it's got an Indian sort of style to it, but again, it looks like a massive structure. Could have even been part of a column that went up and up and up. The Colosseum in Rome. We're told it's an amphitheatre, and it's a couple of thousand years ago. But I propose that this architecture is exactly the same as all the other architecture, and it all belongs to one time period, one civilization, namely Tartaria, and they just thrown in the Rome narrative just to throw us all off and just bury it in a big mess of a false timeline that we're supposed to believe. Again, that's supposed to be Greek, all the columns. But it just looks like it's the same architecture that's just been destroyed. It's just been destroyed by the powers that be. This is, I can't remember the name of this building, so I think it's by. It's in London, and I think it's by part of Battersby Docks Home. It's a huge old world structure. Again, I think it's supposed to be Victorian. It's massive. That is a massive building. It's got these 4 huge pillars. I don't know where this is, but again, it's a cathedral type building. It's got a big dome on it, towers going up, gathering free energy. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That's got white stone. I mean, that could be marble, could be limestone. But again, I mean, it's impossible to imagine how they would have built it. Cathedral. We've got these great big windows. All these 2 familiar patterns, and some kind of technology built into the stonework, gathering energy. All these buildings are all designed to gather energy. We think they're designed to gather energy. They're not just built for religious purposes. That's just what they tell us. They've added what I think they've done, which makes sense to me. What they've done is they've given us a story about our history. They've given us religion. And what they've done is they've fitted the religion into the artwork and into the building. So all that artwork was already there, and a lot of those statues. And what they've done is they've indoctrinated us with religion. But all that, the cross would have already been there, the paintings of Jesus, the lamb, all that kind of stuff. And they've just put their story over the top of it. And that's what they've done, because there's just no way they could have built these things back then. And that's a whole other video, so I will go into that. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. But I think that's more than likely what they've done. All that artwork, and all the statues and everything, they've just made a story up and made it fit what was already there. That's what they've done with all these buildings as well. Okay, so look, here's another cathedral. Look at it. I mean, how the freaking hell could they have built this shit back then if it was 1500s, 1600s, 1800s, 1700s, whenever? Even the early, 1900s. There's no way they could have built that. I mean, that's fucking huge. And look how big the doorways were, and even big lampposts. Look at it. That's just amazing. And all them towers going up into the air. Yeah, unbelievable. That was back to the maps. So anyway, let's go back to the file. And what's the next subject? Star forts. So also they had. Let's do a search. Also they had star forts. Going to star forts. There we go. Let me show you the proper file. So, star forts. So these These star forts, again, they're all over our realm, all over our world. They're being found everywhere. Since people have started looking at this, everybody's come to realise that these star forts are all over the world. And you can go onto Google Earth and you can search lots and lots of towns and cities all over the place, and you'll come across these star forts. And they've been built. They've been terraformed onto the ground, and then they've built cities into them, or towns into them. And most of them got bodies of water going around them as well, which you'll see. Which I'll share with you in a minute. Get back to the star forts. Excuse me, folks. Bear with me. Star forts. There we go, star forts. There we go. So there's a star fort in an old map. Nicosia, not sure what that means. But you can see the river coming in, or the canal. And the water goes around the star fort. And comes out with the star fort. And then they've built a whole town in there. You can see it's a whole town. It's depicting a whole town. With a cathedral in the middle. And some more tower buildings with towers. Let's have a look at another one. If it'll let me. Yeah. There we go. I mean, that's a huge terraforming operation. You see that? So you've got the actual points of the star, which I propose are probably walls, and then the outer part of the star, that's probably all like an embankment, because it's got all forest on this side. That's huge. That's got and that's a star within a star within a star within a star. And then in the middle, I don't know what's going on there. I would probably say that it's, let's see, up there. There would have been more buildings in there, but it looks like a bit of a wasteland now. There is some buildings left in there, though. But that is huge. That's massive. And it even looks like there's a little island there. A couple of little islands. That's just the sun reflecting off it. There's a row of houses there by the looks, and that's the bridge into it, the road into it. And you drive through, and there's another road out. But yeah, it's the map, another one, another old world map. And that's got 3 entrance points. Again, that would have been possibly the water going in, the water going out. Another that looks like a blueprint to one, an old blueprint to one, which is really interesting. Really interesting. That's bloody cool. Look at how intricate it is. The detail in that map, or a blueprint. It could possibly be a blueprint. It's perfect. And there you've got the legend. It's all there. Then we've got all these. Now, as a carpenter, I know a little bit about drawing, so I'll try and work out what they are, what all this means. But it's showing the layout of the town, or the roads. Not sure what all this means, though. See, not really going to know, because that could be all linked to do with energy. That could, all these lines here, all these pointy bits, could be to do with the way they've laid down the cables to, electrical current. I don't know. It looks like. I mean, the whole thing looks like. I can explain it. It just looks like it's pulsing energy. The whole thing. It's really, really cool. Okay, let's move on. And there's one you can see again. That's from right out. That looks like it's been took with a drone or from a helicopter. Again, that's amazing. I mean, there could have been water around this at some point. Look at that. Look at those pointy stars. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's got a tower in the middle there. And again, it's a star. Within a star. Within a star. And then you got a cube going that way. And then a star shape. Unbelievable. That's not symmetrical, that one. Some of them are symmetrical, some aren't. There's another illustration of one. And that one's got one, two, it's got two double bodies of water going around it. So there's something going on with the water. There's something going on with the water. It's like they were energising the water. There we go. These are what we see when we were youngsters. They told us that these were moats, and they were castles built for battles because we were all still fighting one another, and that's what we ever did. We were throwing spears at one another, cutting one another up with swords. We all lived in a dark age. Yet we could all build these amazing, wondrous structures, but they were all fighting one another. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. I mean, how would you construct something like that out in a body of water? That's way up in the air. That's been taken from an aeroplane or a helicopter, air balloon even. That's way up in the air. That's awesome, unbelievable. Another one. Again, a star within a star. With a city in it. Yeah, like I say, they're all over the round. This one looks like the Pentagon. So again, so if you look at the Pentagon in America, that was built on a star fort. That building to copy the shape that was already there. Look at this one. Look at this one. How it just sits in nature. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Again, a star within a star. Water within water. Something going on with the water. And that's half a star fort that's left. Again, it's got a small town built in there. That's unbelievable. I could look at these all day. Really could. So, mud flood. We're going to look at evidence of mud flood. And I'm going to finish this video off in about 10 minutes. So there was some point in the past there was a mud flood or a cataclysm involving water and mud, and it completely destroyed this realm. And I'm going to show you now. There's the depiction of the flood. The Great Flood. Now, it mentions the flood, Noah's flood in the Bible, so it could be linked to that. Because don't forget that the Bible, and again, this is going to maybe upset a few people, and I apologise, but the Bible's been rewritten many times. So who's to say that they've just rewrote history? Now, the mud flood was possibly carried in by a massive body of water that covered this realm and dragged along with it all the mud, covering all these old buildings. And you can see, now I'm from England, and I remember specifically seeing all the windows down in the ground, and you had to go down the steps to the bottom floor, what they call the basement, and the windows were always underneath the street level. I mean, you just wouldn't build buildings like that. It just doesn't make any sense. And then go to all this effort of having decorative windows. So here you can see devastation of after the flood, and here as well, where they've been doing excavation. I mean, that could be London, that could be anywhere in England. The brick going down, look, there's a whole other level. They've shutted it all up to do whatever they were doing. I'm going to have to be quick now. More evidence, look, digging out the mud. Just already there. All those buildings already there, and they're just digging out mud. That's just pure mud everywhere. Statues buried in mud. That's Easter Island. Another building here. Again, it could be anywhere in England. It could be Leeds. It could be London. It could be absolutely anywhere. It could be Warwickshire, from where I used to live. Anywhere. There you go. Again, just all built on top of the mud. Windows in the ground, buried in the ground, half buried. More mud flood. The streets all just mud. Mud, where the diggers just dug down, and there's mud. Doorway, half buried in the mud. Window, half buried in the mud, all bricked up. Old telegraph pole, it's got to be England. It looks like England to me. Mud, somewhere out in, could be India. Well, that looks like people. Could even be Africa, sorry. But yeah, look, columns, all buried in the mud. More mud. Look, you can see the mud. It's just covering those buildings, halfway with those buildings, and it just looks like they've dug them down. More mud. Buried. Windows halfway down in the mud. Again, more mud. Delaware, so that's in America somewhere, in the United States. Look at this, just mud everywhere, just absolute. So they're telling us that's supposedly from the colonial times. So I would propose in the colonisation times of the Americas and New Zealand and Australia, the people that were sent there were just digging out of the mud to recolonise it, to lay the new infrastructure, which they just laid on top of the mud. All these old buildings were already there, half destroyed. England, halfway in the mud, everything's just been laid over it. Don't know where that is. That looks like where I used to live. That could be any seafront in England, anywhere in Europe really. And look where they've dug down, and you can see they've uncovered a whole row of archways that were buried. This one's from Paris, and this was from the 70s, and they dug out a whole area to put some new infrastructure in, and you can see how deep that goes. That's a whole nother level, so that's nearly a whole nother one of those again in the ground, on archways, all under the mud. That's the path. So that's the old path there. People were walking around, and I know myself, they would have just put protective barrier along it so people couldn't fall off the edge. But that's big. That's deep, man. That's, yeah, like I say, that's another depth of that building. Let's move on. More of the same. That must be that same place. And you see these buildings, look, they're telling us that are Greek Romano. Look, all the same kind of buildings, all buried. Again, that's the same depth again in the ground as what was on the top. So who knows how big these buildings are. Yeah, so that's my introduction to everybody on Tartaria and our story, our history that they've hidden from us. They don't want us to know about, and I propose they don't want us to know about it, so they can keep us enslaved in the current system. If we were to find out that we were a great race once that was capable of building structures like that, we had free energy, we could heal ourselves, we all lived in a true one-world society where everybody was part of a nation, but everybody had the same. Everybody was sharing the same kind of technology that was harmonious to our surroundings, and it lasted. I'd say those buildings that we call Victorian buildings or Greek Romano were probably hundreds and hundreds of years old before the cataclysm come. Whether it was a flood or whether it was blood or whatever, doesn't really matter. We're just trying to decipher what happened. But they've definitely lied to us. I live here in New Zealand. I'm going to go out and collect lots of photo images and videos of the remnants of old world buildings here that are left here in New Zealand, because we're told that New Zealand was colonised in 1840, but all the old maps and all the old infrastructure and all the old architecture totally contradicts what they're telling us. So I'll be going out gathering more information and covering this and making more videos on it. So also there's a guy called Dave Abido, and his channel is called The Felon Show, and he calls himself King Dave in YouTube land, but he's called The Felon Show. So if you type in The Felon Show, and you'll find Dave's channel, and he covers all of this. He's done a really good job. So if you're interested in mudflood Tartaria, New Zealand specifically, then he's the man to go to. And I'd just like to thank everybody in the Tartarian hidden history community, especially Autodidactic, Dave Abida, and all the people that are doing this work, because it's a new level of truth, and it's fascinating, and it's got so many topics that can be applied to this as well. We can cover topics about how their society would have operated. Did they have a monetary system? What kind of clothes did they wear? What kind of heating did they have? And also a lot of these old Victorian buildings never had bathrooms. So were their diets different? Did they eat meat? All big questions. And was that old all that old architecture from our last golden age, which I propose that it was. So all big questions, and they're all just left wide open for us to put the big puzzle together. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.